So let's start off. What we're going to do, what we've been doing the last couple of these is we've gone on StreamYard and we've gone live on StreamYard, and it's been great. Except we don't get any of the face-to-face interaction that we crave, that we want, right? And then we've also done it with Zoom webinar, which we had the ability to go live on last time. And I was hoping we'd be able to go live on this one, but it doesn't look like we can. So I wanted to do the team version of it to the meetings version, I should say, so that if you wanted to collaborate, if you wanted to turn on your video, if you wanted to ask a question and have your audio, out there, you could do it, right? So that we could kind of mimic what we normally do in a room, which is have everybody go through and introduce themselves, do a quick, 2-second elevator pitch about who you are, what you do, what you're looking for, and why you're here. If you're brand new, you just say, hey, I'm brand new. If you're experienced, say I'm an experienced rehabber. If you're a landlord, you say I'm a landlord. If you were a developer, I'm a developer. This way we kind of mimic what we normally do as opposed to just two talking heads, right? Giving a presentation, which is what it's been the last couple times. Dwight is in here.
Dwight Ufford?
Yeah, he's just joined. I just connected him to come in. So awesome. And so I already know that I could hear Daniel. I could hear people because he unmuted himself and he spoke. So Dan, why don't you take the lead real fast? Just very quickly. Who are you? What do you do? Why are you here? I know you're a couple of margaritas in deep sea. Happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. Happy Cinco de Mayo. But just kind of lead it off real fast, and we'll try to mimic what we normally do in our regular room.
All right, super. I'm Daniel Sanders. I own and operate Force Sales. We're an estate sales, auctions, and personal property appraisals company. So we sell the stuff that's in the houses. We leave selling houses to great realtors like Rob and the rest of the team. We specialize in pretty much anything and everything that's in a house, right up to and including vehicles and firearms. My name is Daniel Sanders with Force Sales.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks,
and Daniel can literally handle anything. I've seen him haul out like 9,000 rounds of bullets from a hoarded up house.
Thank God you were there to do the schlepping. All I had to do was figure out how to fit them in the back of my sports car.
What did you do with all of those bullets, Dan?
They are stored along with the Koresh volume of firearms in my secure lockup, and I charge them every single month for storage of those items until such time as we could transfer ownership to one of the psychotic sons.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
That is a very particular and, when it is needed, very much needed service. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me. I'd rather sell the guns, but unfortunately the crazy son's going to buy them.
So I don't have, if anybody wanted to be brave enough to turn on your video, feel free. And if you, there we go. We got Edward. Awesome. Turn on his video. Very cool. But if you wanted to unmute yourself and just kind of say who you are and what you do and what you're hoping to learn, by all means, go for it.
Hi, I'm Eddie. This is my second meeting. I've been to one in person before. I have one deal under I own my primary residence, and I bought a property up in Baltimore. I sold that to a better one up in Philly. It's kind of like an investment in a sense. So I'm hoping to learn how to better invest in Virginia and in the DMV region.
Thanks for joining, Eddie.
Cool.
Hey guys, my name's Rob Chevez. I'm a new real estate agent and wannabe investor. So looking to learn a lot from you guys and one of the great masterminds on this Zoom call.
Very cool. Thanks, Ramez. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for joining.
Any other brave soul that wants to introduce themselves? We won't go through everybody. Just those that want raise her hand.
Hey guys, how you doing? How you doing, guys? Thank you for having me. My name is Carlos. Second time attending. I will be doing fixing and flipping. So I've been educating myself for a while now. So I'm just trying to learn as much as I can. I know the day is coming soon when I'll be doing my first flip. Just trying to learn as much as I can. Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks for joining, Carlos.
Hey guys, this is Doug. Been to one meeting in person. It was back in November, I think. This is the second meeting I've been able to attend, just trying to soak up as much information as I can. I'm a new guy looking for my first deal. So yeah, just looking forward to the info.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining, Doug. Any other brave soul wants to introduce themselves?
Hey, this is Jason. I've been on a couple of these talks. Pretty good value that you all providing. I'm pretty new in the industry. I come from a background in IT and cybersecurity, but I'm looking to get out of the rat race. So for the last 2 or 3 months, I've been on YouTube University trying to figure out how to get into real estate investing. I've got some really good friends in the area that are local. They have a couple active flips going on, one in Fort Washington, one in Silver Spring. So I'm on site probably every couple of days, just learning from those guys. But it's an opportunity to get on here and meet other investors and kind of share the knowledge I'm learning and meet other people that want to provide value to me as well. So thanks for letting me join.
Sure thing. Thanks,
Nice.
Jason.
Hey, Rob, did you post the meeting on your Facebook page
I did.
with a link?
I did.
Okay. We've got a couple people checking how they can get logged in. I'm letting them
Yeah,
know.
Facebook link. Yeah, I mean, they just go and they just follow the Facebook link, and then I'm checking here to see who to give access to. So far we've got 23 people on here, and it's a good little quorum. So let's get this started. Who are you? Why don't you introduce yourself real fast?
Me?
Yes, you. Who the heck are you?
I'm just a humble little rehabber. Tries to do the occasional deal. Mark Beckett, by the way, for anybody here that I don't happen to already know just yet. And if we don't know you just yet, and we're doing what we can to kind of do our getting together online and virtually now, right? But always feel free to reach out, send us an email, drop us a line, phone call, whatever. Take us out to lunch when places are open, which I think will happen again in hopefully another week or two. And we can kind of hook up offline and go over any of the things we're talking about in greater detail. By the way, if anybody has any questions, of course, ask while we're here. But the point of this is to kind of tell you what we know and then hopefully carry on the conversation a little bit later. So anybody that wants to connect later, that's definitely what we're here for as well. But Mark Beckett, Rob, and I have been doing investing things for 10-something years now, right?
Yeah, 11
Fixing
years.
and flipping, a little buying and holding. Rob, you can talk about what you do on the agent side, but my side is mostly construction and renovation. So I run CAZA Construction that does construction work for ourselves on our projects, a little bit for third-party clients and some of our agency clients. And so this is mostly what I do for a living. So excited to talk about it a little bit. So that's me. Rob, who are you?
Well, I see Jonathan Smith's unmuted. Jonathan, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, yeah, I been coming to your meetings for past couple of years, sort of on and off, but noticed you were doing this online, so I thought I'd rejoin. I'm just a wannabe at this point, but have 2 rental properties in Florida, but that's about the extent of my activities right now.
What part of Florida?
Miami.
Right. Well, good spot. Good spot.
Yeah, yes and no.
Okay. What do you not like about Miami, out of curiosity, Jonathan?
Well, the market's been a little soft lately down there. I mean, actually, I'm fortunate. I have 2 tenants who are working for major corporations. One works for Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, which
Yikes.
You would think this would be a bad thing, but he's an executive, so I just re-signed a year extension with him, and then the other guy works for Cargill, which is a grain exporter, and they seem pretty secure. So
Okay.
far so good. Keeping my fingers crossed, but
Gotcha. Okay. I love Miami as a market, as a place. I was just there in like early March. I think we got the last flight home before things started getting really weird in Miami and elsewhere. A great part of the world, I would think, to own rental property. Tons of people vacationing with pretty good amounts of money. So I liked it.
Cool. Well, let's. I'll introduce myself real fast, and then we'll kind of get started. Whoops, my Alexa is listening to me. Can you see me, Mr. Mark Beckett? Oh,
I can see you. Yep.
Okay, cool.
You're here, baby.
I'm here. I just want to make sure. Okay, so we're all getting used to this new world, this new digital world, right? And learning technology. So bear with us as we get through this. But I think we've had a lot of fun. We've done one through StreamYard, which was interactive and which was fun. We've done Zoom webinar, which was a little bit different. Like nobody could put their camera on or talk, but you could chat. And we thought we would just open up the team version for those that are just joining. Though my name is Rob Chevez. I am the founder, along with Mr. Mark Beckett, of Grid. We've run the Reston location for the last 13 years. It's been our privilege to be able to run this for the last 13 years. I've been running it for the last 13 years. And the whole purpose is to help empower you guys with information to be able to go out, build your networks, and build wealth in the process. And we have different topics that we teach every single month that we deep dive on and we mastermind with. And this is a collaboration. We are facilitators of a discussion, and we like to make it a discussion. That's why I wanted to open it up like this versus it just being a webinar. So if you wanted to add anything or even ask a question, this would be your opportunity to do it. And you have two very seasoned people here that have done a lot of renos, both for ourselves and for other people. I run the CAZA Group, which is a top team in the world. And we primarily work here in the DC metro area. And one of the things that I love doing is working with this tribe. This is our tribe. I work with a lot of business owners and a lot of real estate developers, investors, and we help them not only buy assets, but sell their assets. And so the way I like to think of myself is as a real estate financial planner, right? All things real estate, literally, you can come and ask me a question. I'm happy to answer it. And if I don't know the answer, I'll certainly get you the answer. But we both, between Mark and I, we're pretty, we're pretty darn knowledgeable at this point. So thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. And tonight we're going to deep dive a little bit on how to rehab for big profits. And this is a topic that we've changed up a little bit. And, I'm going to admit somebody here right now. This is a deep dive a topic that we've changed up here recently. And I think it's going to be more valuable than it has been in years past. And again, it's just, we're facilitating a discussion. So Beckett, take it away as I let people in the room because there's people joining.
Yep. And for those who haven't done a lot of Zooming lately, you've got a chat function there, should be somewhere at your top or bottom of the screen. So if anybody has any question at any point or wants to like raise a hand, hit the chat box and hit us with your question or your comment. I believe you may be able to even unmute yourself possibly by holding down the space bar if you have a question, but one way or the other, raise a hand, hit us with the chat. Like Rob said, this is meant to be kind of an interactive discussion. So feel free to stop at any point to make your point or to ask your question, and let's chat it out. All right, so we kind of went around the room a little bit for the few people that wanted to say hello. If at any point you want to say hello or have something to say, again, speak up. The legal stuff, we're not giving away advice. We're not attorneys tonight. We're just talking about how we do deals. So how we do deals. Some of the stuff will seem maybe kind of basic, but there are things that really I come back to time and again, in their discussions that I have with my partners and our lenders and our agents and our buyers, there are a few steps we think that everyone should kind of be cognizant of to approach and manage and run and successfully complete a renovation or rehab project. So we're just kind of going to go through them just based on our experience and what we've seen and what we've done, the kind of things that we think anyone else ought to be doing and ought to think about if they want to renovate a house and hopefully do it for profit and sell it for more than you got into it. So step number one is to prepare, right? One of the most important things to remember in any kind of investment, especially I think one involving real estate, is time is money. And that means a few things, and it's, I think, really important now, right? Because the market may be changing, and a project that takes 6 months to a year to complete is something where you need to kind of be aware of what's going on around you. And the less time you're exposed to a market that may be changing, the better if the market is changing against you. And maybe it's a good time to chat, Rob, about kind of what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Right now, I speaking for what I've seen, things are actually pretty good. Everything is selling, right?
That's right. That's right. I mean, a couple of things. Well, so you've got this abundance of buyers that are out there that still want to buy because interest rates are low. Right. And you've got a lot of sellers that have pulled back. They're worried about putting their properties on the market. So the low inventory environment that existed before got exacerbated because some people just decided not to sell that rightfully so. They were scared of that. Yep. But what that's done is that it's created this immense demand. So if we're putting a property out on the market, it shows well, it's priced well, it's getting offers, right? It's getting multiple offers still. Now, we're going to see what this looks like over the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months. We are going to be tracking and delivering to you guys what inventory levels look like. We're paying on a weekly, daily basis. I mean, I'm literally getting a report to see what do the inventory levels look like. There are some markets further out, from out of the Beltway that I'm starting to see inventory levels rise a little bit. But in general, things are moving really fast still. I want to see has anybody seen anything different than that? Anybody that's active, right? Jason Brown's got a chat. Rob, where are you pulling that inventory report? So great question, Jason. I've got a guy on my team that's literally going into the MLS and he's pulling all the data directly from the MLS. That's where we get that data. We're looking at all the actives in markets, all the solds, all the under contracts. And by the way, if anybody wants a copy of the inventory that we just pulled today for the different markets, I'm happy. Just comment here and I'll happy to go back. Well, in fact, I'll probably just email it to everybody. I've got everybody's info. But I'm happy to share with you the inventory along with what we're seeing with pricing and any pricing changes. So great. Yeah, we'll send that out, Jason, for sure.
Yep.
Thanks. Hey, this is Ruben. Yeah, have you seen anything with the financing drying up and causing any issues there, or has it been pretty consistent? So as far as getting the deals to close, because I've been watching the market a bit because I'm looking to buy right now, and I mean at least with my financing, they kind of started putting some requirements in place, but for the most part, I still have it there. Yeah,
Ruben, are you? Is it a jumbo loan?
No, I'm looking actually do an FHA 203K just to take advantage of some rehab.
Got it. So it's interesting. Jumbos, some of the big banks essentially said, hey, we're just not going to do any jumbos. They came out and said, we're worried about that. The smaller local banks, they're still doing them. They're totally fine. Some of the doctor loans went away. So it's interesting. Every bank has certain products that they're like their secret sauce, the things that they feel really good about. And anything that they don't feel good about, they've taken off the table. But in general, financing has still been strong, right? the requirements. Now, if you talk about private lending, hard money, that has gotten very tight. Like not tight, but what they want from you is substantially more than in years past, meaning they're going to want you to have more skin in the game. They're going to want it to have less exposure. And so I've seen some tightening there. Mark, have you seen anything else?
Just exactly that. Times are uncertain right now. When there's uncertainty, there is a flight to quality. And so that happens on the lending side also. So lenders are looking for more quality out of their borrowers. And like you said, Rob, in the larger lending, in the retail lending space, jumbos are hard to get. HELOCs have been pulled back or turned off by a lot of the larger lenders. So it's going to be a little harder to get your hands on personal equity in the near term. And that may affect the market. But Rob, to your point, it is a supply-demand equation, like it always is, like any market is. And right now the supply is so low that the supply is still below demand, such that prices are at least stable, if not still possibly even increasing slightly, certainly here in the DC metro market. If there are more people out buying than there are houses to sell, the market will stay stable to going up. Just have to keep an eye on that. That's all the more reason to do what you said and kind of keep an eye on indicators and see what's happening. But sure. I think those of us that have been renovating for a while have maybe, certainly if you've done it in the last 10 years, have experienced this where time has largely been on your side. We've had projects that have gone long. We kind of took our eye off the ball, worked on other things, or said, well, what if we do this and what if we do that? And we have either done a little bit more renovation than we intended, or it took a little bit longer than we had thought because other things happened and things drag on, and the time actually helped you, right? A house that would have sold at 500 ended up selling at 525 6 months down the road from when you originally did the deal because the market went up. I would not count on that right now, right?
Yeah.
That's time is always money, but right now time really could be money in the way of costing you money if you're not careful and you don't get your rehabs done relatively quickly. So
that's why you've got to. That's why this is a great first slide. You've got to plan it. You've got to execute it. The day you go to settlement, that dumpster's out front. Everybody's got the scope of work. I'm sure you're going to go into this. Look, yeah.
Yep. Well, yeah, I mean, let's talk about it for a couple seconds. So the kind of things we're talking about that you need to know before you show up with a hammer to start tearing your house up, you need to know ahead of time what you're going to do. And one of the biggest mistakes that I see early rehabbers do is renovate a house the way that they would want it. Like, I imagine this is like HGTV and I'm going to build this awesome kitchen the way that I would like to see it, with waterfall countertops and all of these kick-ass appliances and all this cool stuff. That stuff is cool and it's fun, but it does not make you any more money than selling the house that is just nice enough, that is just as nice as it needs to be competitive in the marketplace. And the one thing that you need to try to figure out quickly is that this is a business. You need to treat it like a business, and your business should be get in, get out, do it again. If it worked, do it again. If it didn't work, figure out what didn't work and do it better next time. But get in and get out is what the renovation business is. So that does not lend itself to massive renovations, and it doesn't lend itself to really high-end, funky, specialized finishes and fixtures like you might do for yourself if you were renovating your own home. We run comps. We look at what's selling in the neighborhood. We look at what those houses look like, how they're laid out, what kind of finishes and features are in those houses. And then we try to be right at that spec, or maybe even a little bit under it for much less money, or a little bit over the neighborhood spec for the same money. You always want to be compelling in the marketplace. We never try to set new benchmarks. We never try to have the nicest house in the neighborhood. We never try to have the highest price house in the neighborhood. In fact, the neighborhoods that make the best sense for renovation are kind of bread and butter, middle of the market kind of neighborhoods where you can have your renovated house be kind of right at the middle upper end of condition, but right in the middle lower end of price. Because we're not retail sellers, right? We don't live in the house while we're selling it. We don't have the advantage of being able to just sit in it and live in it and be the roof over our head for 6 months while we try to get our price. We need to do the best job we can on renovating, do the best job we can on pricing, get our money back, hopefully with a profit, and then move on. So over renovating is, I think, one of the biggest things that people do wrong in their early rehabs, and just taking it too far.
Yeah, and the way you research that, guys, is by pulling up comps. But when you pull up the comps and you're looking at the different prices in that particular neighborhood, you're going to look at all the finishes, right? What does this kitchen look like? What does this bathroom look like? And what you're going to do is you're going to try to match the best comps that are there. You're not going to go above and beyond that. So it's a pretty basic exercise, but I see people go crazy all the time. It's like being the builder that builds the first house in a neighborhood. It's tough, right? That there's not that they are the first ones in that neighborhood, and it's they're taking it to another price point at that point. And typically, they don't do that well, right?
Yep.
They're pioneers for sure, but they don't do that well.
Yeah, we try not to pioneer.
No.
So another thing to be aware of as far as time goes is being prepared with your plans and permits to get your permits so that you can get started. Not enough people understand that you can't usually, in a lot of cases, just walk into a permit office and say, hey, I want to gut a house and walk out the same day with your permit to do that. In DC right now, I don't know how many of us out here are working in DC. DCRA is apparently massively behind. I was talking to a builder earlier today who said he's just not even looking for new projects right now because there's just no idea of how long it's going to take to get your plans through DCRA. And they use third-party processors that usually are former DCRA employees, and they've got like ins and hookups in the office, and they can usually like walk stuff in and get things kind of stamped and walk out. And he said it's not happening because the office is closed down. And by the way, they've been closed down for like a month to two, and it's going to take a long time to work through that backlog when they do finally get back up to speed and running at full capacity. So know that getting plans and permits can take time. And there are a couple of ways that you can shortcut that time. And one of the best is to be prepared when you go in with good looking plans that show what it is that you're doing in a way that your county or a city or whatever jurisdiction it is that you're looking for your permits from are going to want to see it. And you can get help with drafting those plans from places that are a lot cheaper than architects and engineers. So designers are one of the places that we get a lot of help with our plans from.
What's the pricing differential, Mark?
Yeah, so an architect will charge like $800-900 a page just to render a thing on a page, just to show you, a box with some switches and outlets on it that shows you where the bedrooms and bathrooms are. An engineer will charge, $1,000-1,500 a day for their time to come out and measure and draft and put things on a plan. Whereas a designer usually with either a really easy to use version of CAD. CAD is the drafting software that architects and engineers use. These days you can get kind of like half CAD, like CAD Lite, out of programs like Chief Architect is a good one that's relatively easy to work with. A lot of designers know how to use it. I'm talking about like interior designers or designers that sell things like cabinets that always need a lot of measurements. Our designer also happens to be a cabinet supplier, and they go in and they are already doing the measurements of the rooms anyway. You've got a cabinet as the vanity in most bathrooms. You got a bunch of cabinets in the kitchen. So they're already measuring the rooms that we do most of our work in. Hey, while you're in there taking your measurements, give me a layout of the house and of the rooms that we're working in so that I can have my guys go in and drop in real quick, the 5 places that we're putting in outlets, the 2 or 3 recess lights, anywhere we're removing a little bit of plumbing. You just kind of handwriting in the work that you're doing in a space after it's been drawn up nicely can make a lot of difference in how quickly you get in and out of a permit office. And you can get your interior designer or cabinet supplier to do that work for free as part of their other design services as they're coming up
Mark,
with a design or cabinet.
Henry had a question here. It's a great question. Do you need
Yeah.
their stamps to get a permit?
Yeah, so it depends. It depends is the answer on what's being done. If it's a structural job, then yeah, a structural repair or structural job will need a structural engineer's stamp. So in those cases, it's unavoidable. If you're taking down a wall and you need to know if it's structural, you have to call the engineer out to look at it. If you know you are changing a structural wall and you need a stamp to show that the wall that you're building is in the right place and it'll hold the load, those are the kind of things that you need a structural engineer for. But you want to use them sparingly, as little as possible. So when we bring the engineer in, it is only to look at the wall that we're taking down and say, all right, we're taking down this wall. Where do we need to put a beam? Where do we need to put a column? Do just the thing you need to do. Give me that page, and the other 4 or 5 pages of the plan we can do with a cabinet or a kitchen and bathroom designer that can sketch things out, and chief architect that does a lot of the work for significantly less than an engineer charges for full plans. Engineers and architects charge anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 for a house worth of plans. And if you're building from scratch, it's kind of unavoidable if they have to design all of the walls and all of the rooms and trusses and roof plans. Then you have to have them. For a basic rehab, you don't need that kind of heavy lifting, and you certainly don't need to spend thousands of dollars to have somebody come up with plans. So think about your designers and think about suppliers like cabinet suppliers that are going to be in the house anyway and can do good-looking drawings for a lot less money.
You just saved somebody some money.
That will save a lot of money. All right, so here's the one that you were talking about, Rob. You need to be ready for the day you go to closing. When the ink is dry on your HUD, and as soon as the last person signs the last paper, you need to make sure that your permits are pulled, your contractors are ready, your dumpsters have been lined up, utilities are turned on, everything is ready to go the day that you close. And don't assume that the contractor you talked to a month ago about doing the work is just going to be sitting around ready, waiting for you to call and say to show up. Reach out multiple times. Tell them what to expect. Give them a week's notice. I think I'm closing on Tuesday. Could you be ready on Wednesday to start with demo? Can you be in there? If I'm demoing on Wednesday, can you be in there on Friday doing the plumbing, doing the electric, getting ready? Have your people ready to go the day you show up. Can save days to weeks depending on how backed up the person is, where the property is. If you're in working in Prince George's County, sometimes the utility companies are not nearly as speedy. I think in DC, we've waited for weeks sometimes to get heavy ups done that the power company has to come and be involved in. Start early.
Mark, do you see Doug's question there?
Yeah, what point in the closing process do you start investing in the plans? As soon as I know that I'm going to own it. And it depends on how complicated the plan is. If it's a basic rehab and I know it only needs a page or 2 of notes on where the outlets are and where the plumbing lines are that we can kind of walk in and out of the county office with, and you can do that in a couple of days. You only need a day or 2 notice. But if you're doing a condo conversion in DC, that is months worth of planning and design that you have to do, and weeks to months worth of processing with DCRA if it's in the city to get the permit and get the plan approved for that. So that you need to start immediately as soon as you know that the project is happening. And that's why when you see stuff from wholesalers that have approved plans and permits in hand, that's why they're usually a couple $100,000 more than the same house without the plans and permits, because they're saving you literally 6 months to a year of time. And as we just said, time is money.
On the larger projects.
So on a bigger project, it's months. On a small rehab, though, Still, if it's around here in Fairfax and Arlington and Prince William and Loudoun, you can walk in and out of the permit office usually on your first try in a day if you've got reasonable plans that sketch out what you're doing. And most of them are pretty helpful, but I wouldn't wait to figure it out while you're standing there.
Yeah.
You go in with a plan and know what you're doing, and they'll be a lot more helpful. And utilities are the other thing. Don't assume that you can just call Dominion Power if you bought the house on Tuesday and the seller was smart and they've turned the utilities off for that afternoon, that they'll be out there that day or the next day to turn your power on, especially right now, right? Everyone's schedule is a little thrown off by recent events. So if I were buying something in the next month, I would start much sooner than normal with lining everybody up, including the utility companies, to make sure your power and your water's on. So this is a little nugget about home warranties. So how it works is that people are probably familiar with what a home warranty is. It usually benefits the buyer. So when someone buys a house, the seller provides a home warranty, or if the buyer buys it, it covers some of the major appliances, and they can cover all kinds of things, everything from plumbing and electric problems to sewer and septic and things outside of the house. And people have different experiences with them. People have different opinions about how valuable and worth it they are. But the story that I would tell you about a home warranty as it relates to rehabbing is we had a project a number of years ago that was a townhouse. And we had gotten in the habit of getting home warranties to offer to our buyers when we sell the house. And the reason I like to offer the home warranty as a rehabber is it just makes a buyer that much more secure in buying your house. And it gives them somewhere to go if something happens, right? You just would rather people not be calling you about a problem with their house after they move in. And it doesn't matter whether you're legally obligated or not. As rehabbers, we're looked at a little bit differently than retail home sellers. If you bought a house in an LLC and put money in it and
you're the big bad investor.
Correct. There will be a different expectation there by the buyer. Like, this should have been found. This problem should have been fixed. This thing is broken and now I'm mad. And they'll be more mad at you as an investor than a buyer would be at a regular retail seller. And it's just a fact of life. So everything you can do to mitigate that will make your life easier. So the home warranty gives you something to fall back on. If there's a problem later on down the road, you've already offered that home warranty. You can include it and prepay for it for a full year at least after closing, and it protects the buyer. But we did a deal where we were renovating the house, and it was a townhouse, quick job. We were in and out. We bought it, we renovated it, and we had it on the market and under contract in less than 90 days. And that's important because water bills, if you're not familiar, tend to come out quarterly. So this was a house that we had bought, renovated, and sold before we ever got a water bill on it during our ownership. Well, while we were under contract, we had a buyer. We'd worked everything out. The home warranty was part of the deal. We'd already set it up and paid for it. Got our first water bill. Surprise, surprise, the water bill was like $800 or something for the couple of months that we'd owned it. And I don't think we'd turned the water on for more than 10 seconds. Clearly a problem. And what we were doing is, I think the house was getting ready to close within like a day or two. And not enough time to figure out what was going on, only to know that there probably was going to be a problem. So we told the buyers, it looks like maybe something going on. We think it may be some kind of a water leak. It's certainly not in the house, because we saw that. We would know if it was in the house. But by the way, let's check with our home warranty people and see what they say about it. And because the claim got made after they had closed, they called after they closed to the home warranty that was now theirs. They came out, looked at it. Sure enough, there was a leak under the slab in the garage that they had to dig up. And it was like, I don't know, $3,500, $4,000 worth of work to dig up this garage slab, find the broken water line under the house, fix it, and repair the concrete. And I think we offered, as the seller, because we had identified it before closing, to pay the deductible, which I think was like $500 or something, We got our water leak fixed that we didn't know about and would have cost us several $1,000s. We got it done for $500, and we looked good for that buyer. It wasn't something that we had to come in and do ourselves, and it was covered. It saved us a lot of money. So it doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it can really kind of save your bacon. We don't recommend that you kind of use it and abuse it. It would cover HVAC in a lot of cases, but if you know the HVAC is on its last legs when you buy the house, I wouldn't get a home warranty and try to hose those guys out of a new AC unit. They'll probably catch on to that. I think it's technically fraud. If you know it's on the way out and you plan to replace it anyway, it's really there for true emergencies and things that happen. But you know, the once or twice that we've needed it, I think is paid for any time that we've ever used it. So a couple of people are saying they've had good experiences with 210. 210 is really popular. A lot of builders use it. HWA is one that we've used. Rob, who do you recommend for people now? For
like Super. Super's been good to us, but you know, Kurt actually makes a good point here. He says, whatever the buyer wants, right? Because then they won't come back and complain to you about the warranty company. So it's almost like, listen, we'll pay for a year warranty or 2-year warranty. Here's some company. Go out and do your due diligence and come back to us. Let us know what you want. I like that idea.
Yeah, and I think
he gets roof warranties as well from licensed roofing company.
I think one of the most important things about the home warranty is to have a decent contact with the warranty company. We sell a bunch of them on the agent side, so when we use a company, we tend to use them a lot. So that helps. Just if you're going to offer it as the seller, it would probably behoove you to try to find a company that does get pretty good ratings and reviews, and try to get a relationship with them, because then having somebody to call and say, hey, my buyer has called in their claim for the refrigerator for like a week now, you know, what can you do? Help them out. It works. It's good to have a guy with anything, right? If you got a guy at the warranty company,
I got a guy.
You will get better service. So the more you do it, the better service you'll get when you get a relationship with them. But the point about warranties that Michael was making about getting warranties from your individual trades is also important. Again, even if you're not obligated as a seller, if you sell the house completely as is, stuff happens, things come up. It's better to have a warranty that you can pass off for someone else that you can go to if there's a problem in the future than to not. So always ask for a warranty from anybody that you're working with, and try to get a warranty from your contractor that would cover you after you sell it. But worst case scenario, get that home warranty, and it's certainly something better than nothing.
So Jonathan Smith put something up here. And,
Yep.
Yeah, and Jonathan, I've seen that happen, where the warranty companies, it's difficult because of the contractors that accept doing work for warranty companies aren't the greatest.
Yeah.
Except there are companies like a Super, which is the one that I recommended, that all of them have really, really good ratings, but you just might want to check it out, right? That's where the biggest problem comes in with warranty companies, and we'll just go to the next slide after this, is it's just trying to get them to do anything could be a nightmare. That's why you need a great relationship with a rep, right? That's why Mark was saying, hey, find one that you like, do a lot of deals with them, and then the rep helps you get that stuff done, right? So.
You're absolutely right. We've all heard the stories about people calling in a claim, and it takes weeks and weeks, and they send an incompetent Yahoo out, and they make the problem worse. All of that stuff is true, and that is why it pays to be consistent with who you use. Get a guy on the inside at the company that you can say, hey, I bought a bunch of these policies, make this happen, make it work. And we've done that. We've made those calls, and I think we get put to the front of the line, and our stuff gets approved when maybe otherwise it doesn't.
Yeah, Daniel Saunders said, hello, Super, as well. That's the one that.
It's all about relationships, right? That's why we are here. Relationships matter.
Powers of the network.
Those kind of things work better.
Oh, right. What does that mean?
So we're prepared now. We've done everything to get ready. And now we're going to go in and start ripping our house apart, right? So one of the first things that we like to do when we start a rehab project is to introduce ourselves to the neighbors. If we are gutting a kitchen and bathroom, we're going to have dumpsters, we're going to have trucks, we're going to have 15 guys parked out in front of the house at from 7:30 in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon, coming in and out, making all kinds of noise. Do yourself a favor and tell the neighbors that you're getting ready to start a fairly large renovation project on the block. It's not just a good neighbor thing to do. I think it's an opportunity. It is an opportunity not just to save yourself some heartache, giving them somebody to call if there's a problem, but it's also an opportunity to say, hey, I'm an investor. I just bought this house. Congratulations, you're about to get new neighbors in a freshly renovated house that's going to raise your property value on the street. You should be super happy about that. By the way, I'm always looking. If you know another one of these anywhere that might need some help, I love to buy houses that need a lot of work. Here's my card. Give me a call. And we start with, call me if there's any kind of problem. I want to make sure nobody's blocking your driveway, or they're not working too early, or they're not making a mess.
You want to make a
Also,
friend. That's your point, right? You
Right.
want an ally. You want a friend,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
I want them to call me. And it happens. It happens on almost every job. I get at least one call because someone's run through somebody else's yard, or the dumpster, had to jump a curb to get into the driveway, or they were working at 7:29 instead of 7:30 in the morning, and that's okay. I would rather have them call me than to call the city on me, right, or to call the county on me.
Mike said he's let them do a walkthrough before, get them involved in the process. Hey, you want to come check out the house? Come
Right.
take a look at it, right?
Every neighbor is nosy. We do that same thing. We say, hey, I think you're going to be pretty surprised at what this house looks like by the time we're done. As we get a little bit closer, stop by. Let me know if you want to come in. Happy to walk you through it and check it out. And we've had neighbors find the buyer. And just as important, we've had neighbors recommend us to other sellers and say, these guys did a cool thing on my street. If you're looking to sell your jacked up house, you might want to give them a call. And we've gotten deals out of it.
It's a great thing that people forget to do.
It's so easy. You're working, on the street anyway. Why not take 10 minutes, grab a stack of cards, and walk up and down the street and just introduce yourself, hand them a card, say you're working on the street. Anything happens, let me know. Anything else in the neighborhood you think I should look at, let me know. Your phone will ring, and not always with the bad stuff, but even if it's the bad stuff, you want them calling you and not the cops when your guys are showing up at 7:30 and blocking the wrong person's driveway.
Yeah. And Kurt said, hey, it's great for security as well, right? Hey, if you see anything that's looks suspicious, please let me know. If any of my guys get out of line at any point, please let me know, right? You're making them part of the process, and they could be added security is what Kurt was saying. That's great.
Absolutely.
Mark, isn't it equally as important to bookend that with a open house just for the neighbors right before you put that sucker live? Show them what you did.
Yeah, so we actually did that because we do construction for third parties. That's actually something we've done before in neighborhoods where we did fairly large renovations. We go around as the thing is finishing up and invite people to their own kind of nosy neighbor walkthrough, right? Everybody likes to know what's going on in their neighborhood, and we do one just for the neighbors where we then put out information and signs and cards and flyers about us. Hey, you like what you see, let us know. We're available and we can do it for you. It's a great way to do that. You can maybe get your contractors, if you're hiring contractors, to do that. If they want to get more business, say, hey, you hook me up with whatever, give me a better price on this, give me a good deal on that. I will let you participate in an open house that I have for the neighbors and see if you can get some other kitchen and bathroom renovation business based on what you did for me. Again, always think about those relationships and where you can kind of leverage and take advantage of something you're already doing to help somebody else in your sphere. Nosy neighbors make good bird dogs. Absolutely right. Everybody knows somebody with a beat up house. I want them to be impressed with what we're doing, like us, think we do a good job, and then be willing to say, hey, you should talk to so-and-so, or have that neighbor even better call us. So checking in with the old neighbors. Okay, this should tend to go without saying, but it doesn't happen every time that you've got your contractor locked in with a really good scope of work before starting your project. And I don't know, I think we're all, if we've done it long enough, maybe a little bit guilty of, you've worked with a guy a couple times, you know what you're doing. just, get the thing done. We're looking at a simple townhouse renovation. What are we looking at? Like 45, 50, you're estimating in like $5,000 chunks. You're like at 45, 50, you to clean it up, make it look good, toss them the keys, and then show up 6 months later and expect your house to get done. It works, and if you have worked with a contractor for a long time and on a number of projects, it will probably be fine. But I guarantee you will leave money on the table, and your schedule will not go as well as if you have a good old-fashioned scope of work with a legitimate schedule at the beginning and set expectations with everyone, right?
That's right.
Rob, you still set expectations with people on a team that you've had for 10 years.
That's right. Well, we call it upfront contracts. Everything is about having an upfront contract.
Right.
And so, yes, Mark, it's worked for you because you've done, a ton of renovations with a couple handful of contractors. But anybody on here, the scope of work is like one of the most important things that you can do, is making sure that all of you have upfront agreements on how it's going to go, what it's going to cost, what happens when it doesn't go according to plan, how are you going to handle that when it doesn't go according to plan, holding people accountable to it, and being firm. There's a young lady on my team who she was doing a commercial build out essentially, and she hired, unfortunately, the cheapest person to do the work, and it cost her it was probably like $100,000 mistake, right? And so anyhow, not great contracts, not fulfilling the contract, not living up to it, and then giving the person second and third and fourth and fifth chances to get it done. And I'm like, listen, they showed you exactly who they were day one when they didn't fulfill the first basic agreements. Right then and there, got to cut the cord, and you need to have that in your contract. So
yeah, I have definitely made that mistake of giving too many chances because you're right. The first time you have even a medium-sized screw-up on your job, I have found it never gets better. We'll fix it. We'll get on it. We'll do better. It just doesn't happen. The people that know what they're doing from day one. Yes, stuff happens and everybody makes mistakes, but if that mistake isn't corrected in a way that impresses you about how well it was corrected, which is rare, then it's not going to get better. But on the other hand, like when things have gone wrong, we've had it happen in other stuff. When something went wrong with a supplier or a contractor or a retailer or whatever, you can tell the ones that are really serious about correcting mistakes and correcting deficiencies. They go above to correct it, right? If your guy's not going above and beyond to correct whatever went wrong, it's not going to get any better. So you're right. If it's not going to work out, call it early and say, look, this isn't working out. Sorry, I'm going to find somebody else. Save yourself the heartache down the road. Someone was asking, Ganesh asked, how do you incentivize contractors to keep on schedule? Usually it's more penalty than incentive, right? We all agree up front. All right, how long do we think this is going to take? And by the way, don't feel like you have to impress me. I want a legitimate number, a legitimate schedule on how long this should take. And if it's a plumbing job to plumb a kitchen and 3 bathrooms, if they say it's going to take 2 days, probably not enough. If they say it's going to take 2 months, probably too long. Some of that's just going to be experience on knowing how long it will take, but you're looking for a realistic expectation that you can then say, great, now that you've told me how long it would take, and let's tack a few days to a week even on top of that. Can we all agree that if it's not done by then, something has gone wrong, that something is probably costing me money? So if it's not done by date X or within X number of days of turning you loose on the job, you agree to give me a credit back of $100 per day or whatever it is for every day after day number X that this job isn't done, and get it in writing and get the contractor to agree to it.
Could you, Mark, would it be maybe somebody would want to see what a scope of work looks like?
Yeah.
You can email them, put it in a file, send it to you guys, just a basic scope of work. Ramez, yes, you get them in installments. People people might pay like a third up front, third when the job is, you know.
One of the most important things the scope does is define and give milestones to when that contractor gets paid and what for. And the more concrete those milestones are, the better. Really, for everyone, the contractor wants to get paid. You only want to pay when the work is done and when you're paying for an amount of work that you agreed to and that's worth the check that you're writing. So detail in when you get paid. I get paid upon, and a good milestone is always, if it's a job that involves plans and permits, some kind of approval. So you can't usually drywall in your large renovation that needed permits and inspections until you've had that work permitted. So drywall is usually a good one if the job is getting inspections, or upon completion of close-in inspection for plumbing, upon completion of close-in inspection for electrical. The final inspection. Job being done is always a little wishy-washy. Completion of final inspection, though, is a little bit more of a concrete thing. You're not going to get away with too much at final inspection of a job. You can get away with paint and carpet not being done, but all the big stuff will usually be in there. So using milestones based around
Mike,
inspections is good.
Maybe we can unmute Mike. Or Mike, I don't know if you can unmute yourself, but what's the Gantt chart?
Gantt chart is a spreadsheet that you put together that gives you a timeline per scheduling of your contractors. For instance, you know, between anything from a lot prep to rough plumbing, electric, footers, and you spread those out over the timeline. If you're on the finished end of the business and you want to know when your windows are already in, your doors go in, your trim goes down, paint, flooring. So each one of those takes on average about 3 days. I give my contractors. But I'll have a Gantt chart and I'll make sure they see it, and they might even initial that they know that it's a 3-week process and tie it to the contract if you want to do that as well. I've had contractors I used for years, 6 years. This Antonio Chavez guy, he knew exactly what I was looking for, but I always stay on top of them. You never give them slack, you know, to that point.
Yep.
Very cool. Thank you.
I think that's actually, well, I think that point is coming up shortly. Intermediate point here is consider a general contractor, especially if you're newer to the business. It will always be cheaper to hire an individual plumber and electrician and painter and drywall guy and carpet guy and roofer and
not worth it.
There are a lot of guys out there, and usually if they're good and they're looking for work, you can get them to do their individual jobs for less than a quality general contractor will charge you for finding all those people and knowing all those people and managing all those people and giving you one person to call if you have a question or a problem with, hey, I don't like the way this looks. I don't know who did it. I don't know who's responsible for fixing it, but I don't like it. That is hugely valuable as a newer investor.
Well, listen, having a GC is incredibly important because truthfully, you need to stay in your 20%, which is going out and finding more deals.
Correct.
And not managing the project. Find a great GC, develop a relationship with a great GC, and then go out and find more deals because that's where you make money in this business.
And by the way, the guys that make hundreds of millions of dollars on real estate, building massive office buildings, hire general contractors. They're not hiring 5,000 individual small subs because, as Rob said, you make your money finding a deal. You don't make your money managing trades and getting involved in the fight between who cut whose wire and who broke what pipe. It's not your thing. Your thing should be finding good deals. So a general contractor will kind of mediate those fights for you. There's a fee. It's 15, 20, 25% more expensive to hire one guy to manage all that stuff than to hire 10 of them and manage it yourself. But I would argue that you could make that money back by finding 2 deals instead of doing one where you're responsible for everyone and managing all that stuff. So Londell makes a point about hiring a project manager to keep the GC accountable. You can separate project management from the actual contracting if the job is big enough.
Well, also if you have a lot of projects, right?
And if you have multiple projects, you get to be a big operation. Then yeah, if you're doing 6, 8 of these at a time, it may pay you to have someone whose only job is to watch the contractors, whether they be general contractors or individual, because again, your time is best spent working on marketing, getting on the phone with motivated sellers, doing the things that make the real money. You don't really make money fixing the house up. You make money on the deal, right? So do the things that pay you the most per hour, and let somebody else yell at the guy with the hammer that just broke your water line. Do you have to get a lien waiver from each trade hired by the GC upon payment? Not a bad idea. So what a lien waiver is anytime a contractor works on your house, they have what are called lien rights. If someone showed up and put time and labor, or put labor and materials into your house, they get the right to put a lien on that property if they don't get paid. And it's not even if you don't pay them as the owner. If the guy that hired them doesn't pay them, they can put a lien on the house that you as the seller have to deal with when you go to sell it, and figure out who paid who and not, and when and why. Versus you can make your payments to the general contractor contingent on supplying you with a lien waiver supplied by anyone that they've hired that says, I've been paid as of this date, I have received this amount of money for the work that I've done, and I can't ask for any more. I'm happy with where I am on this job is basically what the lien waiver does. And you'll need to get them multiple times, because if the guy comes back 5 times, each trip out with new materials and new labor constitutes the right to place another lien if they don't get paid. So you need them to waive those lien rights and say, I have been paid, I'm happy on this job. You should do that anytime you're handing a check to someone else. Make sure your trades are alone in the house and don't stack them up to keep accountability for damage. Yep. When you've got multiple people in a house at the same time, success has a million fathers and failure is an orphan. No one ever admits when they cut a thing, or they made a hole, or they made a mess, or they stained your carpet or scratched your new countertop. So that Gantt chart allows you to stagger and tell people when they're expected. So the plumber knows he can't set the toilet until the tile is done. So everyone can see what the schedule is and know what the precedent conditions are and when they're doing the house. So usually, hopefully, in a perfect world, everybody shows up when they're supposed to, and only when they're supposed to, and on the days they're supposed to. Back to making my point about a general contractor. If you don't have that, then somebody is responsible for making sure that someone showed up on Tuesday. The guy was supposed to be done with tile on Tuesday, so plumber can show up Wednesday and start setting toilets and vanities and getting things in. Someone's got to be there to make sure that happened, because to get back to the point about how do you incentivize, if you're going to penalize a contractor for not being done, you need to know if they're not there. Which I think maybe gets to the next part. No, don't get homeowner permits. I swear to God, I'm getting to the point about checking your jobs out. We'll talk about the permit bit.
Get them.
Yes, get them, but don't just get the homeowner permit that your contractor may say, oh, it's really easy. Go down to the county and tell them I own the house and I'm going to put in a bunch of new lights and some outlets and I'm going to change out the kitchen and bathroom. Here, give me a permit for that. You can get them. But then if anything were to go wrong at any point in the future and someone else looks up who did work in the house, the permit will be in your name as the seller and not the contractor's name that did the work. And that's who people call when they're mad, the guy who pulled the permit that they think did the work, not necessarily the person who actually did the work. So your contractor, if they're legit and they're licensed and they're allowed to do what they're doing, should be able to get their own permit. They will charge you for this because someone has to go down to the county with those plans and stand in the line and get the permit processed. And it takes hours to a day sometimes to get those permits. And if you're an electrician, you're going to charge for that. Your time is valuable. It's going to cost you a couple $100 of your day to go get it. But he will have pulled the permit, and then whoever did the work will be responsible for getting it inspected and passed. And if there's any problem in the future, there's no debate about whose work this was. If there's an electrical problem, who's the electrician, who pulled the permit, it's him. Do not get lured into getting homeowner permits as a rehabber Just because it's fast and easy and cheap and saves you a lot of money, it can cost you more money down the road. Question being, doesn't passing the county inspection limit your liability if you pulled permits as the homeowner? So there's technical liability and there's real world liability. Just because you would legally win a fight doesn't make it worth you being involved in the fight. So
energy, money, like anguish, like pass that on. Think of it as insurance. You don't even want to be part of it. You want to pass it on to somebody else.
That's right. If my name is on the permit, I'm involved in future fights about it, which you may be anyway as the owner of a property that you sell. But it's less of a fight if there's problems with work that was done by a contractor that you can say, okay, this is the contractor who did the work. Here's the permit they pulled for the work, so that you can then prove who was responsible for it. Again, there's a big distance between what you're actually legally responsible for and what you can end up having to deal with as someone who renovates and sells a house. Anything you can do to limit your hassle is a good thing.
Michelle said, hey, how is this different from the earlier permits when submitting the initial plans? The point being, do not get homeowner permits. You get the contractor to do. So it's the same thing. You just want to make sure that the contractor is getting those permits.
Correct. These are the permits that we're talking about that you get at the beginning of the job. But it is easy in some areas to sign an affidavit saying, I'm the contractor on the house. I'm going to pull my own permits. Do not be lured into doing that, even if the contractor says, I got to charge you.
It costs less money. You could save money if you do it. They're passing the liability on to you. Right?
Correct. There's a reason that you're being asked to do that, and it's to save potential future liability. And you would just as soon pay for that. Say, nah, I'm good. Tell me how much you're charging. I'll pay for it. You get the permit. All right. Contingency budget. Again, this should kind of go without saying, but there will be something that goes wrong, right, in every renovation project. It's not even necessarily always that something goes wrong that will require you to need more money. You may change your mind or decide to pursue something slightly different or see an opportunity somewhere. A house gets sold while you're working on your project that had completely finished bathrooms, and you weren't planning on finishing your bathrooms. Well, maybe I'd like to be able to do that because they got a really good price for that house. I think it would pay for itself. You need to have the money to do it. But more importantly, and more often, it's because you thought the HVAC was going to be good. It looked like it was working, and then it craps out the day after you start. Or the roof that you think looks pretty good is actually all rotted underneath, and when you look at it from the attic, you can see all the plywood is bad, and you've got to replace a $3,000 roof that you hadn't anticipated. There's going to be something in any decent-sized job, and the bigger the job is, the more likely it is that you're going to find something that you didn't know about, and that something might be larger. So have more in your budget than the absolute maximum number of dollars in your scope of work with your contractor. If it's a $40,000 renovation, have 45, have 50 available to you. Don't tell the contractor, I'll just make it 45 and then let me know if there are any problems. Have a good scope, have a good agreement, bolt them down to the 40, but then have the 45 available because something else will happen.
What happens? What happened during this whole Corona thing when you guys were doing projects? Did it cost you more money? Were you guys to do the projects? Did it last longer, take longer, or?
No. Fortunately, here in Northern Virginia, the jurisdictions all got hit pretty quickly to other ways of doing business. We've actually passed inspections on what's it called? The iPhone camera thing.
FaceTime.
FaceTime. They've done them on FaceTime, or Duo is what we use on Android, but whatever. They'll call and say, hey, you got an inspection today. It is the close-in inspection for your bathroom. I'm going to call you in 5 minutes on FaceTime. Have your phone ready, and I'm going to have you show me some stuff. You just walk around with your phone in the room and show them the work, and we've passed inspections on FaceTime and Duo. So
That's
we've
cool.
been lucky. It hasn't really slowed down inspections and getting things done. Once you've got your permit, and that is here in Northern Virginia, I would counter that with, I have heard people say in DC that DCRA, that's always a bit hit and miss, has been a lot more missed than hit lately. And people are having a hard time getting permits. Yeah, Fairfax is the one that I've seen that we've personally had experience with the over the phone video chat inspections. I've heard, I think Arlington's doing them too, though.
What's interesting, guys, with everything that's going on, I was having this discussion with my team earlier that things have changed, right? We're not going to go back to doing some of these things the same way. You probably see an increase in inspections being done virtually. Settlements are now happening completely virtually. Agents aren't going to them. Sellers are able to close, and buyers are able to close from home. So we've essentially leapfrogged, like, by years, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years of what was going to come, but we were forced to make it happen now. So it'll be interesting to see how all this plays out over the next year.
Yep. Let's back up. We've got a couple of questions I think that we missed. How is the permit different? Oh, from earlier, we answered that one. All right. Is pulling a permit the only way to update a tax record? For example, if I buy a 1-bedroom condo and I want to hire a contractor to add a closet and make it a legal 2-bedroom, will it only be reflected as a 2-bedroom on the tax records if a permit is pulled? And I believe the answer to that is yes. The only way to change the tax record is to process a plan with the county that's in charge of the tax record. The municipality, the county, the city, whoever it is that files those tax records is the only body that is able to change them, and they only change them if you file a plan. So we built a house in Falls Church a number of years ago where the plan was to keep the foundation, keep the first floor. We're going to add a second floor, add a little bit of square footage. The project kind of creeped a little bit, got a little bit bigger, got a little bit larger, and then eventually we tripped the plan requirement where once you've added a certain percentage of square feet to the base house, the county calls you new construction, whether you're fully new or not. So the tax record ended up getting changed to show our 50s still foundation house as being new construction with the correct number of bedrooms and bathrooms. It actually ended up being helpful because we looked like new construction. We still explained that it wasn't entirely new construction to end buyers. But the way that the tax records get modified is with the plans that you submit and that you get your permits for with the city or county or whatever municipality is in charge of permitting. Usually that permitting office is connected to the land records office. And so if you're looking to really add value that gets reflected in a tax record by adding bedrooms, bathroom counts, things like that, you're almost always going to have to get that permitted. Pretty rare to be able to go in and make an argument that say, hey, I've got a 5-bedroom house, you're only showing it as 3. They'll want to know, well, when did that work get done and by who? And why don't we have it in our records that the permit wasn't pulled? So if you're doing the work and you want to get that extra value for adding bedroom and bathroom, absolutely know that you have to get that submitted through a plan. Probably have to do that anyway, by the way. If you're adding bathrooms, if you're adding bedrooms, that's probably permittable work anyway that you should have the plan for, and you should be going into the county planning office anyway. All right. Closing some commercial deals virtually. Yep, we're doing virtual closings all the time. We do all of our closings at least semi-virtually, by the way. Rob, when was the last time you sat across the table from a buyer or a seller?
It's been a while.
It's been a long time. As a rehabber, by the way, we're never at closings on the buy or the sale. The title company sets it all up. We sign everything separately if we have to at all in pen and ink. And then
but normally you would go there to sign.
Yeah.
We don't even need to do that now.
Yeah,
we've done all electronically.
Yeah. Yeah, we did that earlier on. The first few times, it's like, that's cool. I want to go and hand the keys over to my new buyer that's buying the house. And I guess there may be something to that, but I haven't done that in a long time. And I think there's a lot more benefit to not showing up. Nobody knows who I am. We don't show up at anything. We just we sell the house, let the agents work it out.
So
really good.
What I'm hearing so far, Mark, as we kind of go through this, is that it's like these incremental little places where you don't want to mess up that collectively lead to you maximizing the sales price, maximizing the amount of money that you make on this, right? Speed, planning, making sure you pick the right contractor, getting the permits, like essentially making sure that you don't get hit on the back end for, frivolous things because you just didn't get the right permitting. You didn't get a home warranty that might cost you some money. So.
Right. Now, your job is to run a business. And running the business usually means dealing with marketing and sales and acquisition of new projects and materials, right? And global direction. You should be the CEO of your rehabbing business, not the guy running around all day buying materials and negotiating with individual people on little tiny things. Think big if you want to get big. Yep. Remote closings. Yeah, everybody agrees. Remote is definitely the way to go. Third-party digital notary. We doing digital notaries yet?
Our title company is handling everything.
They just started it, right? Champion now does everything digitally. They can get things recorded completely digital. They're doing the digital notary. I think I saw a couple of weeks ago.
What happens is it all depends on what the lender will allow.
Yeah.
So
Good point.
but they have the ability to do it all. So it's cool.
Yeah, that's a really good point. A lot of that will be lender dependent on what they're willing to see. Some of them, I think, still require wet signatures on things, which is annoying. But I think a lot of that's going to go away after this. That will be a way that kind of life is going to be different after all this. Okay, here's my point about showing up on your job. Someone, whoever it is, you, your money partner, your business partner, your buddy, somebody needs to be regularly on your job to look at things, and in particular at a few times during a job when it is critical that somebody look at and be okay with the work that got done. In particular, before drywall goes up, as tile is getting finished, as kitchen and bathroom cabinets and vanities are being set. These are things that once they're done are really costly and painful to undo. So you need to be there on some of these days to make sure things look the way that they're supposed to. You got the right material. You got things installed where they were supposed to. The design, it's following the design and the plan that you've got. And just in general, fixing things earlier is always better. And everybody needs accountability, right? This is about accountability. If you just toss your contractor the keys and say, give me the house back in 4 months, don't be surprised if it doesn't look like exactly what you thought it was going to and doesn't get done in exactly the amount of time and for exactly the amount of money that you thought it would.
What's the craziest thing that you've run into that you're like, that wasn't on the plan?
Well, there was the time that we showed up and part of the house was gone for the house that we were building. The plan was to keep an entire story of a house that was made of brick on the first floor, and they kept poking at it. And as they kind of poked at part of it, another big chunk of bricks would fall down, and they just kind of kept poking. Well, it'll stop here. We'll find a good stopping point sooner or later, and poke down like 2 out of the 4 walls of the house. To the point where we're like, well, screw it. Now the house is gone. We have to rebuild this first floor. That was one where I don't know. There was a whole lot to done. They got you can get a lot of damage done in one day. I'd been there the day before, the day after, half my house was gone. Shit happens quickly.
Have you seen the promo video that we did? It's not a great promo. It was back when we were known as CAZA Investor Network, but that promo video on, I think, the grid site of that house, it's on the Facebook site, is that I show up and Mark is freaking out because literally it's just half the house is gone. It was like, he's like, this was all supposed to be here.
There were supposed to be walls. So that's an extreme example.
Yeah.
But on your simple rehab, still show up once or twice a week minimal, and don't do jobs where you can't have someone else checking in on what's being done at least a couple times a week. We hear about people like, yeah, I'm doing deals in the Carolinas or Ohio or Indiana because it's cheaper. That's great. I think that can probably be a great strategy, a great way to get deals. But somebody needs to be watching the shop and knowing what's going on those jobs. Is if you don't be surprised when stuff doesn't go down the way it's supposed to, because there's not someone there watching to say, this is not what I expected. This is not the quality that I paid for. This is not the material that we agreed on would go in this house. And this is not the timeline that we agreed on for these things being done. So it seems kind of obvious and basic, but it still happens to me. Like I know sometimes I've shown up at the job just a day or two too late for something that happened that I could have caught earlier. And you're just not going to go wrong checking in on your job more often than not. And again, it doesn't have to be you. With phones and cameras now, there's no excuse to not be getting daily updates if you wanted them from your job. And then getting back to the other point about how do you make sure that work gets done. If you're going to say, hey, we're going to agree that you've got 4 weeks to get this job done, or I'm going to start, I'm going to get a credit of $100 a day. How do you know if it was really force majeure and they couldn't get to the job because they had a dumpster parked in the driveway, or it was raining and they couldn't paint the outside of the house? Well, you would know if you kept a record and you had somebody there. Here it is. I'm out here, Wednesday the 25th, and there's no one in my house. You mark it down. You keep it in the back of your back pocket. Store that video on the phone. When you get to the jobs, all right, well, we're at day 45. It was supposed to be 45 times 100 is $500. Well, we weren't able to get out there. Here's the record. Here are the days that I went out to the house, and there was nobody there. I've done that before. I've pulled the last minute. You can't complain about your $500 clause because you weren't there, and I can prove it. And it's hard to argue with a video of you standing in the house at noon with nobody in it.
Mark, I feel like you've got total control. I can't go through the slides and make it go faster.
Am I taking too long? No.
Normally I've got that thing where I can control the slide and go faster, but
we're booking. We're flying. We're talking about now. We're getting to the sexy stuff. So step 3: how do you actually renovate houses that sell? Right? What do they look like? Well, the most important thing is the one that we started with. Always build the thing that is going to be competitive in your market. We target kind of the upper middle end of finishes in our market. We don't do a lot of the cool waterfall countertops in our kitchens, and I've got cool motion sense lit under cabinet lighting and niche lighting in my bathroom. We don't put that in any of our houses. We don't do any of the super cool stuff. We just do the things that look the best, cost the least, and justify their costs. Do the things that are justified by their return on your investment. And that's not usually the cool stuff. It's clean, it's new, it's relatively modern, it's relatively neutral, and it's always based on what we saw in the market that somebody else already did, right? So you'll see some photos in the background of the kind of things that we're talking about. I think I'll talk about some of these things later, but in bathrooms, we actually are doing those frameless glass cool shower doors. That is a really nice look compared to a shower curtain. That really makes a renovated bathroom pop and look good. So that's one of the things. Yep, they're pricey, $1,500 to $1,800 for the average frameless glass shower door versus a $25 curtain rod. So it's a consideration. I'm not going to do it in a $175,000 condo, but in a $750,000 single family, we consider it. But to get other ideas, you're just looking on the big popular sites, right? Pinterest and House and HGTV. Look for what is popular in the way of colors and materials and countertops and tiles and paint colors and all those kind of things. Rob says 70% of ARV minus renovation equals purchase price. That is a good formula to use as an investor. 30 years of squirrels in the attic eating wiring. Yep, we've seen all kinds of stuff in the attic. Need to have a couple $100 extra around to deal with that. Push the ARV with higher end finishes. So that's kind of my point. You can, but typically you're not going to get the delta. So for in a bathroom, if we get a pretty good look out of a $3 a square foot tile in the bathroom, if you go to Floor and Decor, which is our current kind of preferred flooring and tile provider, you'll find a lot of great looking tile between $3 and $8 a square foot. You'll find some really gorgeous tile at $12 to $15 a square foot. But bathrooms can have several hundred square feet of tile, so it's a couple $1,000 delta between a nice marble looking ceramic and actual marble tile. Will you get that difference in actual marble tile in your renovation? I would argue almost never at any price point. We've done $1.5 million houses with ceramic tile. We don't use actual travertine and marble tile. That is stuff that people spec in their dream bathroom when they're designing it for themselves. It is not what people expect or look for when they are buying a house that you've already renovated. People know somebody else already did it. They already made their choices. They're looking for clean and neutral and not looking to rip it out, but not expecting it to be exactly what they would do if they hired a designer and did it themselves. So I do not typically find that high-end finishes pay for themselves when it's more than 5 to 10% higher. Habitat for Humanity, yeah, you can really get you can save a lot of money with what some other people are getting rid of. Restore is another place that has stuff that that people have donated that they pulled out of really nice houses. Cabinets that you can reuse in your basement wet bar that somebody has given away. How much interior designers cost? A decent interior designer will typically charge between $600 and $900 per room that they work in, right? So if you're looking for a kitchen design that says, here is the layout for some cabinets and the colors that I would use and the countertop I would use and the fixtures and the light fixtures that I would use and the pendants over the bar with links where you can buy them all, that's $600 or $800. And you can spend thousands of dollars with higher end designers that do all that shopping for you. But typically designers make their money both on the design and by buying things if you buy through them, right? So they'll have an account with Porcelanosa in Rockville that sells really nice high-end tile, where that tile that's got a retail cost of $15, they'll tell you they can get it to you for $13, and they're paying $11, and they make money on the spread of what they supply. We don't do a lot of that type of work. We don't work with designers that supply the material. We pay them for the design and for links to where we can get the material, where we can get our own builder account. And even if you're doing your own job, you can still get builder accounts with a lot of places that you buy material from. So if you're doing a job where you are hiring someone for the labor and you're supplying the material, you should absolutely be trying to get builder or contractor or trade discounts with any supplier, and only buy from places that will give you a discount for it. Unless it's a thing you can get at the depot. The depot doesn't give trade discounts except for 1 or 2% if you're a member of a national RIA or something like that. But to get larger discounts, you're dealing with smaller shops that have trade and builder discount programs. But they're worth doing if you buy your own material. But yeah, good question on interior designers. We don't use them unless we really need them, but they're helpful. They pay attention to a lot more than we do sometimes about kind of not just what's on trend, but where to find things affordably. So we're doing like copper and black. So here's, you can see this bathroom here, black fixtures. That's a new thing. People like it. It's cool. Designers kind of keep us on trend with some of that stuff, and the cool things come down in cost after a couple of years. So here are a couple of things that you might want to consider doing that I think are worth the cost. Railings, new railings and iron balusters. You can make a big difference in the look of a room by swapping out the old wooden pickets for iron balusters. Cheapstairparts.com, if you've never been there, is a good site for stair parts. They sell the rails, they sell the posts, they sell those iron balusters, they sell stair treads and risers. Pretty cheap. What's that?
What was it again?
Cheapstairparts.com.
I'll write it. Cheap stair parts.
Cheapstairparts.com. And by the way, you can sign up for a builder account there and save like 8 to 10% off the internet posted retail price. But those iron balusters are like $8 a piece. I think there's good return on that because that really changes the look of a room to get rid of those old painted balusters for the sweet looking iron ones for the cost. Pattern carpet, meaning the shape and not the color. So I'm not talking about zebra stripes. I'm talking about carpet that's got like a diamond pattern or a square pattern or a hatch pattern built into the fabric of the weave. It's now just about the same cost as plush. It's a couple cents a square foot more than just the standard builder grade plush, and I think looks a lot better for the money. Colored fixtures, so gold and copper and black fixtures and cabinet pulls in limited amounts are good. You don't have to put them on absolutely every doorknob and hinge and everything else, but just the knobs in your kitchen. Just if you want to see what's kind of on trend and looks good, just go on the MLS and look at your 1.5 and above houses in Fairfax and Arlington. And you'll get a good idea of what the kind of cool looking fixtures are. And sometimes you can get the look for a lot less money because they're making them now in black and copper and gold and some cool fun colors. I don't use them on every fixture in the room, but in limited amounts, they look pretty good. Tile features in the master shower. So you can see a little bit of that in the background here in a tile feature between the diverter and the shower head. So that's where you use that $15 towel. You don't use it in the whole bathroom. You just use it in a couple square feet. We've done picture frames. So imagine where you see that window in the tub. If there wasn't a window there, you just make a frame out of trim tile and put a really cool tile kind of in that 2x3 or 4x6 area inside a shower in like a master. Really dresses up the shower for, $50 to $80 worth of extra tile. Really makes a master kind of pop and makes it special without being too much, right? We don't put in the really crazy tile in the whole thing because then it gets kind of busy. For my personal taste, and I'm relatively plain, and that's our goal is we're not trying to wow anybody. We just don't want anybody to walk into one of our bathrooms and go, ugh, that's hideous. They don't have to love it.
You're trying to wow them, but you're just making sure it's within normal parameters.
Right. Wow, because it's new and it's nice and it's fresh and it looks like a bathroom that's been designed in the last 2 years.
Yes.
Not wow as in I would not have chosen the waterfall fixture coming out of the ceiling for the shower because somebody thought that was neat. We don't do anything that's that far out of the norm. Recessed lighting is cheap and makes a big difference, right? It costs you less than $100 a can usually to put in a recessed light. More lighting is better. You can always put it on a dimmer. So load your living rooms, load your basements with recessed lighting and any other kind of lighting anywhere you can. House looks better, shows better, photographs better. Everything is better with more light and lighting is cheap. Flagstone lead walks on the porches. You got to get them in the front door, right? We can't sell the house if they won't walk in it. So curb appeal is important. And putting flagstone over top of an existing concrete sidewalk or existing porch stoop is relatively cheap. It's hundreds of dollars to put flagstone on top of an existing piece of concrete and really dresses up the outside And then fix your driveways. You can get driveways seal coated for $100 or less anywhere. Collegiate Sealers is a good one that will come out and seal a asphalt driveway. Doesn't fix the cracks. It doesn't fix the big humps, but it at least looks fresh and newly sealed and nice and blacktop for under $100. Always worth doing. Would you suggest consulting with a local real estate agent for design suggestions? What a good thought. Use a stager, says Londell. Another good thought. I wonder if that comes up. Oh, look at that. Thought number 4.
Mind.
Stage. You read my mind. Notice all these photos have furniture in them for a couple of reasons. One, just because it works. We have not done it. We've done it. We've seen what sells and how long. But I actually took the time to kind of shop my own sales. And here's what I found out. When we renovate a house, all new kitchens, all new bathrooms, all new stuff, and we've got it on the market, and it's the Sunday open house, but that's it. It's all new house, but not staged. House is completely empty. People walk through the house, they're looking at it. Oh, a renovated kitchen, that's cool. Why doesn't the dishwasher is the same brand as the microwave? Well, these countertops are kind of cool. Is there like any kind of like a dull spot over in the corner of the countertop, or they're walking to an empty bedroom? No, okay, I see. Yeah, hardwoods are great. Man, there's like this hardwood kind of squeaking over here in this corner. If you don't have anything else to look at, people will nitpick your house and they'll nitpick your finish because they have nothing else to consider in an entirely empty room. Versus a house that's been staged, it doesn't have to be fully and completely staged, although we tend to stage fairly heavily. But when you have a room that's fully staged, people walk into it and say, okay, I see what this room is for. I can see where the TV goes. I can see where the bed goes. This either does or does not work for me as a house, as a room, as a space. They spend less time walking around deciding whether or not they like the color of carpet you chose, and more time deciding if they like the room and they like the house. Staging affects the way a buyer moves through the house, and it allows you to kind of give them something to do, something else to look at, rather than stand in the middle of the room and decide if they like your ceiling fan or not.
It creates an emotion.
It allows people to decide if they like a house and to become emotionally attached to the house, versus kind of detached about the house and more concerned with what you did and nitpicking your finishes. So that's really the biggest thing. Yes, it does make rooms look full and make rooms look bigger to have furniture in them. That is a scale thing, and it is real. Yes, it just makes rooms seem nice as opposed to being empty. They're less echoey. It's pleasant to see good, properly scaled furniture in a room. But as much as anything, it allows people to become emotionally attached to the house and spend less time kind of deciding what good of a rehabber you are.
So Eric asked a question, thoughts on virtual staging. So it doesn't solve the problem once the person gets to the house, right, of it feeling empty and them nitpicking, little things here and there. But it absolutely helps drive people to the house.
Definitely. It is so much better than 46 pictures of an empty house. If all you can do is virtually stage, it still looks a lot better. And virtual staging has come a long way. Rob, what is do you remember the name of that service that you guys have used?
I'm going to put it in. It's called Box Brownie.
Yeah.
And by the way, you can get renderings here and all sorts. Boxbrownie.com. You can go to the site, and we use it for picture digital enhancement. We do it for renderings, virtual staging. They do a phenomenal job, and it's helped us get a lot of properties sold.
Box Brownie. So virtual staging can do a lot. You've got to get them in the door first. You got to get people excited about your house online first, and virtual staging can definitely do that if you're not doing the full thing. Kayo's asking how much staging costs. So our company does staging, by the way, if anyone needs information or an estimate for staging or a price sheet for staging. we can give you that, but depending on the size of the house. So a condo is a little bit different than a townhouse, is a little bit different than a single family. But I would say expect on average anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 for your average townhouse to single family, depending on how many rooms you want to stage. So we have kind of a base package for a single family house to get you the living room, master bedroom, all bathrooms, kitchen, foyer, art on the wall, for $3,500 for your average single family house. And then additional rooms on top of the base package, usually anywhere from $500 to $700 a room. And that usually includes pickup and delivery, design service to have someone actually go out, measure the house, figure out what actually fits. You're not bringing the same beige couch into every house. A good designer will actually choose furniture from a large selection to match the architecture and design and size of the house, so you don't have tiny chairs in a big room or a huge sectional in your small living room, making the room look worse. So that includes, the pickup and delivery, and usually at least a month. I think right now we're including 2 months on most all of the staging as part of the base package. Londell says good staging can add up to 10% to closing price. Yeah, maybe. I think it depends on the base price of the house. Do you have to stage a $120,000 condo in DC? Maybe not. But a $1.2 million house in Arlington, I can tell you, always benefits from having a few $1,000s in staging in a house. Shop your own open houses sometime if you want to see what people are saying about it when the house is empty versus when it is staged. And I guarantee you will notice people they say more emotional things in a house that has staging in it than one that's not. Rob agrees. Shortens the time to sale and increases value. We do believe in staging. And it was through trial and error. Like I said, I didn't do it for the longest time because I didn't feel like I could prove that just putting furniture in a house added much value.
Just like you didn't believe that some good landscaping could increase the value of the house.
Yeah.
Right. But through the years, we've learned, hey, some great landscaping, some great staging really does create the emotion, because people buy on emotion. They then settle on that logically afterwards, but it's the emotion that really gets them. Right.
Yep. First, you got to get them in the door. And then when they're in the door, you want them to really become emotionally attached to the house and decide if the house is for them and not if they really care for your granite pattern, but more if they like the actual house. And staging does that for you. Okay. So now we're talking about buyers and being in the house and getting a house sold. So there are a few things that we think you should do to get your house sold. Number one is maybe sell it before you're done. We've seen a lot of people actually have a lot of success getting the house under contract and sold before it's completely finished. If you are using a designer to help you do those plans, if you've got to do plans and drawings for your permit anyway, to have those plans rendered up into a rendering of what the kitchens and bathrooms look like relatively cheap if it costs anything at all. You can actually build a listing and show those plans and renderings pre-completion. We do this for our builder clients all the time and help them market and oftentimes sell and get the house under contract before it is finished. And that does a few things for you. Mostly it gives you the comfort of knowing that your house is sold before you finished it, so you know what the out sale is going to be. And in a tight market like we've been in for a while, that is certainly something that's possible. And there are plenty of buyers willing to buy and looking to get a leg up on the competition. So they think buying the house before it's even finished gets them in before somebody else sees it when the house is done, and they may be right. But it just means that there are people always out there buying, even for a house that's not completely finished construction yet. And also the other thing it lets you do is if you are debating, Do I need to put the 3-piece crown molding in the living room? Do I need to put wainscoting on all of the wall? Do I need to put in the 6-inch wide hardwood planks as opposed to the cheap oak stuff? Put the thing on the market and see what happens. You have somebody buy the house and say that, yeah, it's going to have refinished hardwood floors in the living room, and that's what everyone agrees to. Then you don't have to rip it all out and put in 6-inch wide hardwood in your house necessarily to get it sold, because you've sold it ahead of time. You need to be clear on what you're delivering. So make sure that you do have those renderings and that same level of detail that you had in your scope with your contractor, you need to have in your contract with the buyer for what they're getting. But talk to us offline if you want to get some ideas and thoughts and examples on how to talk to a buyer and negotiate with a buyer on putting an offer in and getting a house under contract pre-close or pre-construction.
Carlos raised his hand. Carlos, I unmuted you, so feel free to ask away. Carlos? Hello?
Oh,
Did you have a question?
no, I was listening to, no, that was a mistake, sorry.
That's okay.
No, that's all right. You're on the spot, Carlos. Come up with a question right now. Anything you want. Ask me anything.
I got so many, I can't think of one.
That's all right, man.
Hey, Mark, I actually have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
If you want to sell the property before it's fully done, are there extra addendums that you have to have at closing in case like the builder does something that was not discussed in your contract with him?
You mean as the buyer?
Yeah, for the buyer, so he doesn't come after you.
So the short answer is, as always, it depends. And so this is getting closer to the point of where Rob and I say we're not attorneys, but we've got them. And so what you need as the seller is a good, clear contract that protects you as the seller. What you want as the buyer is somebody to review that contract for you to tell you if it's safe for you to do as a buyer. But usually the good news is about this is clear scopes and clearly defined finishes and spec sheets and things like that are good for everyone. It lets buyer and seller know what they're doing.
If you wanted to, if you're going to write it up, what you would do is you would reference the scope of work in the addendum. And you would say, per scope of work, exhibit A and exhibit B, right? And that becomes part of the actual contract. And so whatever's in that scope of work should be well defined. The more definition there is around it, the less, the less guesswork people have to do in terms of what somebody might mean. And so it needs to be well defined. And you can absolutely write an addendum like that, right? For example, you don't want to say finished kitchen, right? It's going to be finished kitchen with these kind of appliances, this kind of granite, these kind of cabinets, this kind of layout, right? So, yeah, that's it.
And then Michael makes a good point. You need to, if you're going to sell the house in advance, make sure that the person you're selling the house to is actually qualified like they would normally otherwise be if the house was 100% finished, because you're going to be riding out the rest of this process with that person for some weeks or months. Get a good deposit. It depends on the price of the house as to whether or not we're even willing to do it in some cases. But on a $1.235 million Arlington or Falls Church new construction house, if we're going to sell it 6 months before it's finished, we're getting a $50,000 deposit. If that buyer is looking to influence anything, that's, I'd really like to see this kind of countertop, I want to get this kind of tile. First of all, we don't do anything that we think wouldn't sell if they disappeared. But get a good deposit that is non-refundable except in the event of default by the seller. Be very clear on what default by the seller would mean so that it's not you're a week or two late in finishing the house, but it's a really, really true and serious default. But otherwise, I'm not putting in your goofy rain head shower if I don't think I'm going to be able to sell it if you go away. But then also collect a large enough deposit that hopefully they're not going to go away. But if they do, it's a deposit that you keep, and you can undo any taste-specific things you did for a buyer that you don't think the general public would want. But I've really never had that problem because we just don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to build a house that I can't sell.
Time check real fast. 8:52. We want to make sure that we finish this up.
We'll be done at midnight at the absolute latest, Rob.
No!
We're in good time. No, we're good.
Fast.
We'll be out here at 11:30. All right. Second one, use an agent. This goes back to the same kind of discussion as with the general contractor. People are good at what they're good at and that they do specifically for a living. The thing you should be doing for a living as a real estate investor is find more real estate to invest in. Can you sell your own house? Absolutely. Will you do as good of a job on negotiating the price and terms and vetting your buyer and making sure that they're well qualified, and that they show up at closing, and that they do their inspection, and that they get the list back in time, and that you're not held responsible for anything that they don't do on time? No, I would say you're probably not going to do it. And if you are doing that, you're not spending time looking for deals, on the phone with a seller, doing the other things that you're supposed to do. Qualified agent that's good at what they do is worth well more than what you pay them to get a house sold while you're finding your next deal. Number one. Number two, I don't want to get involved in actual in-person negotiations with buyers and or their agents. I am the nameless, faithless guy in the background. Buyer agent talks to seller agent. It's some random LLC that owns the house. You like it or you don't. It's not emotional. It's a business transaction for me, and the agents keep it that way. They keep it an unemotional business transaction. The offer makes sense. The deal makes sense. People are doing what they said they were going to do, or they don't, and other people take care of it for me. Rob, what other pitch is there for agency as a real estate investor?
I mean, it's speed, right? It's like they're already set up to do all this stuff super fast. So as a real estate investor, like, you know, your focus is to get this renovation project done, and you've got everything lined up and you have a system for it. On the agent side, we have everything lined up and we have a system for it. So literally it just goes into a marketing machine that's been built over the last 15 years. And it spits out a result because we've tested everything. And so, but the biggest thing I would also say is that people don't realize that there's a retail market and a wholesale market on the agent side of the business. I remember a long time ago, I was a for sale by owner before I was a licensed agent, but I was an investor. And my wife and I had bought multiple properties, and but we were like buying whole people, and we were selling this one asset of ours that was a nice home in McLean, and we had fixed it up and it looked nice, and we put it on as for sale by owners. And the interesting thing is we had a lot of people come and look at it, but nobody really made an offer. There were a lot of tire kickers, a lot of looky-loos, a lot of people testing us because they knew that they were dealing directly with the owner. And then we just happened to hire somebody that was a local agent that we loved all their branding and their marketing. And they literally listed the property at the exact same price that we had. They'd made some slight recommendations in terms of maybe painting a couple rooms, nothing crazy, right? Some repurposing of like furniture, nothing crazy. And dude, we got 10 offers and it escalated up like $110,000 over a weekend. And I learned that day that there was a definite difference between, you know, the retail market and the wholesale market being, if you go to Tiffany's, here's an example. If you go to Tiffany's and you see a ring at Tiffany's underneath the light behind a case, that would be the retail market. And you would expect to pay a certain price at that retail market. The wholesale market would be that same ring is now at a garage sale, right? And it doesn't have the light on it, and it's not behind the case. You would expect to pay potentially less. And that's kind of what an investor trying to sell it themselves would do. They're the wholesale market. They're not that retail market. And so I learned that lesson a long time ago. It's actually one of the reasons what sold me on the business. So that's it. That's all I got. Worst comes worst. That's all I got to say about that.
Right.
Would you hire a full service agent? Consider a discount service. Full service. Full service. Full service meaning they know. Here's what people don't understand. Great agents help you negotiate better. They understand how to create leverage and make you tens of thousands of dollars more by what they say and by what they don't say and by how they position the property. If you don't have somebody that understands how to do that, you're literally leaving thousands of dollars on the table to some person that has no expertise on how to negotiate or how to create leverage or how to price properly, so that psychologically they're using fear of loss to their advantage. Like we're driven by fear of loss more than we are the pleasure of gain. So when you go discount like that, they don't even understand what I just said.
Yeah, the discount services just get it on the market so that someone else can see it on realtor.com, and you still have to do the negotiation. You have to get it to the table. And that's where I find that agents really earn their money.
Well,
in that bit.
Let's say it is a discount service where the agent will help ratify the contract. That agent that's partnered with the discount company has already told you how they think about negotiation. That make sense?
They give away their own money. What are they going to do to protect mine?
Yeah. They give away the money, right? So it's like.
Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
I'm just going to tell you that I've sold a few houses with you guys and done the discount route versus the full-blown commission. You guys blew my mind on the Hamilton house, which was the last one before I moved to North Carolina. And I, as an advocate, wouldn't turn around and use anyone else, quite frankly. It was sold fast. You had real buyers. None of this, all the realtors calling me wanting to list it. It just became a hassle, and I just wanted to get rid of the house. Kudos to you guys. I'll toot your horn for you.
Thanks, man.
But I won't ever change if I come back up that way. And I'm still looking for houses up there. But you guys could do a great job. So
we paid him to say that. No,
yeah, right. I wish. See you.
So I appreciate that. And yeah, it's really just about being good at what you do. As an investor, you should be good at finding deals. Pay other people to be good at what they do.
Yeah.
The agent maximizes your value.
Okay, Mark, let's go through these slides, and then Vishal has a question at the end, just general about the market.
All right. So then price to sell, again, it should be relatively.
Talked a little bit about this already.
This is Rob. This is kind of what you were talking about. Another thing an agent does for you is kind of the tough love stuff about what your house is actually worth and what it's going to take to get it sold, and how fear of loss impacts pricing and people's desire to buy and compete with one another. I would rather have two people interested in buying my house than the thought that I could be the highest price and set a new benchmark in a neighborhood. If more than one person wants to buy my house, I am going to get what that house is worth because they will compete for fear of losing it against one another to get me that price. So that and price bands, Rob, we talk about this a lot. $499 being better than $515. Buyers and their agents tend to look in price bands. There's no agent in the world that's looking for a house at $515, right? If the buyer says, I can afford about $500, what does the agent do? They show them everything from $550 or less. Think like the agent does. Think like the buyers do. Price your house where it is going to get seen by the most number of people and hopefully encourage competition and multiple offers that always lead to maximum price.
So Naveen has a question. Can you say you have multiple offers when you don't? I don't, but this is what I say. Somebody says, hey, do you have an offer? I'll say, I don't, but I have a lot of people circling at the moment.
Yeah.
Right. And so what I'm going to do is I'm creating demand. And by the way, a lot of people are circling. There's a lot of people looking at the house online, right?
Right.
Probably people that have called me. So I'm creating demand, right? But I don't I don't pretend something's there that if it's, that it's not. So
We call that inviting bad juju. I've done it. It never seems to work.
Yep.
It usually blows up on us. All right, and then again, to finish up the pricing discussion, if your house isn't selling, cutting the price $1,000 does absolutely nothing. No new people will see it for the same reasons that we just talked about. Agents look in bands. They set a price that they're going to pull all the listings in, and your house going from 574 to 573 shows up on no one's new radar. You have to hit a new band to find new people or additional agents who are searching for someone, and you have to know what those bands are depending on where your house is. So in the 3 to 750 price, you're talking $25,000 probable price bands to get new people to see your house. Anything else, Rob, to think about?
Here's what I would say. The common fear that I hear all the time, and it's such a valid fear, people are always worried about underpricing a house. And let's just say it is what it is right here. We're blessed. We live in a very dense area. The market is very, it's perfect in this market. Like, this area is perfect, meaning that you have the ability to draw on all these employers, all these people, and draw demand to get the value to where it needs to go. There's no such thing as underpricing a house in this market. If you do the right marketing attached to it, it will literally drive the market will drive it to where it needs to go, right? You need an agent that understands how to make that happen. It's called leverage, but that's what multiple offers are all the time. That's what a multiple offer is. Now, if you go to outskirt markets, that'd be a little bit different. But here in this market's perfect, right? And so here's the number one thing, the fear that I hear a seller say all the time. What happens if I list it at a number, right? Well, people are always going to negotiate me down anyway. So I'd rather go a little bit higher than start at the actual sales, like the real value. I'm like, that is literally the kiss of death for a seller. It's a kiss of death for a seller. I don't want that for a seller, because by the time they get to where the price should have been, the market's already tired of the house. It's gotten a little stale. And so the best thing that a seller can do is price at or slightly below the market, and then create demand so that you have leverage, and leverage creates the best price and the best terms, right? And by the way, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if you list it at a number and you don't get a contract in the first 15 days in this market, even with COVID going on, it's purely a function of price in relation to its condition, its location, and the time of the year. And you just got to get those pieces right. But, I've seen people list homes and say, well, our showings weren't that great because it was Mother's Day, or, it was around the holidays. I'm telling you, every single day, people are buying and selling homes. And so, you're just lying to yourself for that.
Right.
That's it.
And to use another example, you think of it like an auction. If you're going to an art or a car or a collectibles auction, do they start the auction at $1 million if they think the thing is maybe worth 10 grand and just keep cutting price until someone's willing to buy? No, you start at a price that's a little bit under what you think people are willing to pay, and you try to incentivize people to compete against one another, because people don't like to lose.
Yeah, that's it.
It's the same mentality that works in selling a house and selling anything. You want people to compete. You want people to be afraid that they're going to lose. If people are afraid that they're going to lose, they'll get their wallets out and they'll pay the most.
Yeah.
So that's how pricing works. We don't price every house at $1 because I don't need 100 offers. I just need a couple. If I just get 2 offers on my house, I can almost guarantee it's going to get exactly what that house is worth, because those 2 buyers will compete to not lose. And I don't need to look through a bunch of offers. I want a price where I'm going to get hopefully more than 1. But definitely not priced to just wait for somebody to try to undercut me and make an offer. Okay, Rob, that's all I got.
Awesome. Good
906.
stuff. I had a question.
What we got?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say that this is the first grid meeting I came to. I had heard about CAZA before, but this is the first one I attended. And I have to say, this is a really good seminar. I learned a lot, and I wish I had attended sooner, actually.
We'll stay to the end. Our pitch for the books and CDs is coming.
The other thing is, what do you think the overall market is? Because I'm actually fairly new. I'm really new. I have not invested in anything other than my own house, but I do have a lot of bandwidth to do some investments, but I do not see any properties, at least on the listings that I'm seeing. And I'm sure I'm doing a lot of things wrong, but I don't see a lot of houses, or at least the houses that would need this sort of rehab. And is this because of the current situation, or is this always the market the way it is and I'm just looking in the wrong place?
So a couple of things. We are in a low inventory market. It's been a low inventory market for a long time. And what that means is that the leverage is in the seller's hands. And when the seller's in the leverage hands, when there's not a lot of inventory in the market, that means that there's a lot of buyer demand and it drives prices up, right? So the properties that we normally look for, the properties that you've probably been looking at, are the ones that are listed on the MLS. Those are always going to get driven up because they're in the public eye, right? They're getting syndicated out to all the sites that are out there. The properties that you're buying at 60 to 70 cents on the dollar minus renovations do not make that do not go into the public eye. They're sold offline. Most of the time, 99.9% of the time in this market, they're sold right offline. So the way that you find those, and we have other trainings around this, is that you market to them. You create a marketing machine specifically for them. And the way that you do that is you prospect for them, you network for them, and you market to them. And so there's a whole way of going about doing that. That's how you find those properties. Last week, we talked about how to find those, and I think it's recorded, actually, right, Mark? I think recorded. Jess probably has it, but we talked about it. How, once the telephone rings for deal, did we talk about how to find the deal, or did we talk about how to negotiate the contract? I can't remember last month.
Both. We talked about it all, but last month was identifying and negotiating with motivated sellers. Yeah,
and so what we talked about there was, what is a motivated seller? How do you find them? How do you market to them? What do they appeal? What do they respond to? What's the messaging that they respond to? And that's how you find, you have to have marketing to find those people. Is it easy? No, right? Do I think that in the next 6, 7, 8, 9 months, a year from now, we're going to see more inventory hit the market that might be more attractive? I think the answer is yes. Although there was an article in the Wall Street Journal that came out today, it essentially said, hey, the reason why we haven't felt this, right, in the marketplace, deals with what's going on, is because inventory levels are still really low, right? And they're low because a lot of sellers got panicky and decided not to put their property on the market. And we were already in a low inventory environment, and interest rates are super low. So the buyers that are serious, that want to buy something, are jumping on the product that is coming on the market, which is stabilized prices, and prices might continue to go up this year, right? But remember, every market's different. Las Vegas, what they're experiencing there is significantly different than what we're going to experience here, right? And so, every market's a little bit different. I do anticipate I'm already seeing defaults happen. I'm seeing an increase in defaults. When unemployment is as high as it is, unfortunately, it's going to affect people that are going to be forced to have to sell. And you have the ability to help them solve that problem. So we'll see more of that in the coming 12 months for sure.
And I think, Rob, that kind of also starts to answer Douglas's question. He's asking advice for a new wholesaler on today's market and environment, best lead sources and type of marketing. I think, based on what we have seen in 30 million people out of work and a slow return to a fully functioning economy, is going to have at least some impact on the housing market. And I think we're going to see for the first time in a decade or two, pre-foreclosure being a reasonable marketing strategy, right? There will be houses with equity, with sellers that need to sell that are facing potential foreclosure, where that is a problem that you can solve as an investor. And that's what we're looking for, right? We're not looking for deals. We're looking for motivated sellers. We're looking for problems to solve. And so a problem that may be coming that will have the potential to solve may be, unfortunately, pre-foreclosures going up in the foreseeable future. Maybe not for long, but I think it probably will happen. So,
Oh, cool.
We'll
James
see.
put it up, last month's video on grid. Thank you. Thank you, James. Appreciate that. Any other questions before everybody goes and watches Ozark or some other Tiger King?
Some good news. The Tiger King was like 2 months ago.
Yeah, I'm out of it.
We're on to some good news. Well, while people are deciding what their last questions are, let me make a couple of pitches. We're on Meetup. I think we're on Facebook. Rob, you may have posted the link to this meeting on Facebook. If people are looking to watch previous meetings and events, you may be able to find links for them on Facebook. We're working on that. Make sure you register for the next month's. I don't know. Well, we'll see where we're going to be next month, here or back in person. For those who haven't been, we typically do these things in person where we get to network now and trade cards and make appointments to kind of follow up and talk shop and talk about the business. We'd love to be able to get back to doing that again, and I think we will really soon. But in the meantime, if anybody does want to follow up, you can find us at Grid Investor on the gram or gridinvestor.com. I am Mark at the CAZA Group. Rob is Rob at the CAZAGroup.com for email. Let's catch up offline also. And then be sure to check us out on meetup.com for next month's meeting. It may be here. It may be back at HQ in Reston. We'll see.
Yeah. And guys, we appreciate you coming on. We know that this is late. We are passionate about helping people build wealth through real estate. There's no pitching in this. This is real world content to help you guys get smarter at investing. And really, we believe that the power is in the network. The power is in the relationships here, the collaboration. Michael, you contributing and giving us information about what you're seeing, and Vishal, the great questions you asked. This is valuable because people have questions, and we're an open book. We want you guys to be able to learn how to do this. Why? Because we want to do deals with you, right? We want to help you buy property, sell property, borrow money from us,
Hire my construction company. I'll renovate your house.
That's right. Hire Mark's construction company. So guys, anyhow, we appreciate you. Thank you for jumping on. Let me see what's Kurt saying here.
Hey, Kurt.
Even after 10, you're still teaching me something every time I attend. Thanks, brother. I
Thank
know.
you.
It's crazy, right? 10 years? Don't even know. It's great seeing you on here. Please, let's, Kurt, you and I connect tomorrow, and let's chat a little bit about where I see everything going in the plans we're doing, right? So I'm preparing. There's a lot of stuff I'm doing.
Okay. It's going to be an interesting year.
It's going to be an interesting year. Mike, man, great seeing you, brother. Thanks for joining.
Man.
Kind of cool, right?
Yeah, it's been a while. I moved down here in 2017, got married. Kind of a sad story, though. I lost my wife from cancer, but now I'm fired back up to start the business down here for a while, and I'm still picking on some houses up there in Virginia and still working the building side of it. I'm even doing boats. Flipping a couple of boats.
Nice.
So anyway, you guys, it's great to see you, man. I always love to hear from you and talk. So I guess I've known you since what, 2012, 13 maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is crazy because, time just goes by.
It does. It's so fast. And
Fast, man.
Nothing's stopping me now, though. I'm full accelerator forward,
Awesome.
Nice.
Catch you guys later. Thank you.
All right.
Yep. Have a
Nice
good
being
night.
here. Enjoy the Carolinas, man.
Okay, guys. Well, I just let somebody into the room, and I feel bad because now we're leaving the room. But guys, thanks so much for joining, Mark. Thank you, brother.
Start the replay, Rob. You got this.
That's right. We'll make sure that we put this out for everybody to be able to watch it later on. So.
Hey, Rob, that was me. I got kicked off. Thanks, though.
No, thank you. Okay, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Edward.
So I'm Eddie, but
Eddie.
I would just like to, so basically from the one meeting that I went to in person, BC, before Corona, I wrote down my email address and my phone number. And most of the time people invest with people that they like and they feel comfortable with. And out of all like I don't know, we were supposed to be drinking cocktails.
That's right.
But anyway, from all the different meetups and this, you can use this as like a testimonial. From the different meetups that I've gone to, BC before Corona, most of the time you get like a voiceless ring mail or you get like an email response or something like that. But you actually called me. And you left a voice message and you were like, how can I help you? How can I serve you? And I didn't call you back. And I got to figure out like when I called, because I didn't like, my inhibitions are lowered at this point in time because cocktails. But just know that we're out here, we're listening, and maybe we're trying to figure out what to say. But at some point in time, I'll reach out because you called me. You left a voice message. I know how to get in touch with you. So thank you for doing stuff like this just to let somebody like me learn. I only know enough to be dangerous, but hey, we're in a market to where like that there's a whole lot of opportunity out there, and I'll end it with that. Like this, I don't know, maybe leave this as a testimony, a tutorial, or cut it out if I'm incoherent and don't make sense. But thanks for reaching out. I'd just keep doing what you're doing because there's somebody on the other end that's gaining a whole lot of knowledge and value and putting it into practice. Just sometimes we're sitting on the sideline. Sometimes we might not call back, but we're here. We're listening.
Eddie, I appreciate that, man. Hey, I'm drinking my cocktails too. And I'm giving you a virtual toast.
Virtual salute. Virtual salute.
Salute. Salute.
And Eddie, actually, the point you're making is the reason we've been doing this for 12-something years now. We do this because it works. It's not about pitching stuff, and you don't know who you're gonna do a deal with, tomorrow or next month or next week. I just know it's gonna work. I just know if we get into enough conversations with people, we tell them what we're doing. Hopefully it helps. Hopefully it gets you, just knowledgeable enough to be dangerous to go out and get a deal. And we would love to be a part of it any way that we can. Stuff comes out of it. You talk to enough people who do what you do, and things come out of it. That's why we do it. So
100%. Like to me, like thoughts and prayers to those without, and how can you serve somebody else? Like how can you help out other people? But to me, like coronavirus has been a godsend just because I might not have been able to get around to all the meetups in person, but on virtually, I can check in. Even if I'm multitasking and I'm doing something else, I can check in, I can listen, I can learn something, and keep doing it. I'll see you guys next time. That's all I can say.
All right. That's great. We'll see you here. All right.
Make it a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Good night, Mark.
See you, buddy.